Chapter 796. Li Jinjin. Shangjing City. A certain deserted alley. A girl around 16 or 17 years old, dressed in a bright red baseball uniform, walked down the center of the road with her hands in her pockets, her head lowered and her eyes slightly red. What the hell? Who needs you to take care of me? I can do just fine on my own. She muttered softly, raised her head high and blinked hard twice, trying her best not to let the tears fall. All the way she alternated between looking down and looking up, managing to keep a single tear from breaking through her defenses, flowing from her eyes filled with sorrow. When she reached the end of the alley, seeming a bit angry, she kicked a soda can in the corner. The can bounced off the walls on both sides of the alley and, by coincidence, landed at the other end of the street, hitting a thug squatting by the roadside on the forehead, leaving a shallow red mark. The 4 or 5 thugs squatting by the road, seeing the red mark on their leader's head, froze in place. Damn. Boss, are you okay? Who? Who dares to ambush the boss? It's that girl. Beat her up. The thugs immediately spotted the girl in the bright red baseball uniform across the street and jumped up from the ground, disregarding the flashing red and green lights, charging directly across the road with fierce expressions. The girl blinked, and instead of showing any fear, excitement appeared on her face. Just as she took a step forward as if remembering something, her gaze fell on the surveillance camera next to the traffic light. After a moment of silence, she withdrew her right foot and took a few steps back into the alley, provocatively beckoning the thugs rushing across the street with her finger. This action reignited the anger in the hearts of the thugs, and they rushed into the alley, picking up scattered bricks and steel pipes from both sides, growling. A little girl really doesn't know how to die. Hit her. Hit her to death. 7 or 8 thugs swarmed forward. Jinjin. Hearing this name, Lin Chia and the others looked puzzled. Is she a member of your Team 006? No, Zhang Jingtian sighed helplessly. Li Jinjin is a girl we rescued during a mysterious extermination operation a few years ago. That year, a mysterious entity went berserk and charged into a stray cat and dog shelter. The shelter was run by a family of 4. The male owner had made quite a bit of money in his early years and their family life was good. In his retirement, he opened this shelter to help stray cats and dogs, hoping to accumulate some good karma for his children. Unfortunately, when the mysterious entity burst into the shelter, the power it released turned everyone and every animal inside to ashes. Among the family of 4, only the youngest daughter survived because she had gone out to buy sweet potatoes for her mother. Upon hearing this story, Lin Chia and the others fell silent. That girl is the Li Jinjin you mentioned? After a long while, Lin Chia asked. But shouldn't there be a special place at headquarters for underage children who survived the mysterious invasion? Why has she stayed with your team all this time? Originally, we did plan to settle her according to the procedure, Zhang Jingtian said with a bitter smile. But who would have thought that on the very night her family perished, a deity suddenly appeared and chose her as a representative. As you know, once a deity's representative appears, the usual handling methods no longer apply. Later we negotiated with headquarters. Because Li Jinjin was too young to join the Night Watchers, and her mental state was very unstable after her family was killed, she was temporarily fostered in our Shangjing City team. Through long-term cohabitation with us, we hope to gradually help her heal her emotional wounds and integrate into the Night Watchers community. I see, so she's a deity's representative. Lin Chia nodded. Once a deity's representative appears, the nature of the situation changes completely. The handling method in Shangjing City was indeed correct. Back when Lin Chia had just become a Seraphim representative, he too was directly made a reserve member of Team 136 stationed in Songnan, gradually integrating into the Night Watchers community. The difference was that Li Jinjin was much younger at that time, so she stayed with the Shangjing City team for a longer period. By the way, which deity is she a representative of? Bai Li Pangpang asked curiously. Zhang Jingtian's expression stiffened and he scratched his head awkwardly. The deity she represents, how should I put it? Very special. Oh, my dearest Princess Jinjin. Please let your shoe soles linger on my face a little longer. Being able to get so close to you is the greatest fortune of my life. Thank you, Fate Soda-kin, for bringing us together. Without it, perhaps, I would never truly understand what it feels like to fall in love with someone. Jinjin. Don't leave me. Xinjin. We can't live without you, Xinjin. Thief pot is love. Love. In the alley, the thugs who had once looked fierce were now lying on the ground, crying their eyes out. They lifted their dark-ringed eyes, and in those tear-filled gazes was a love as deep as the ocean. Li Jinjin kicked over a thug who kept pawing at her shoe soles and rolled her eyes. She turned around and the golden bow and arrow in her right hand vanished with the breeze. She rotated her neck and let out a long breath. Fighting really is the best way to vent emotions. It didn't feel so bad anymore. In a good mood, Li Jinjin walked back down the alley. Just after turning 2 corners, her eyes narrowed slightly. She saw a white cat with heterochromia quietly lying on the broken wall across the alley, its yellow and red eyes staring at her, deep and eerie. A stray cat. Li Jinjin felt a stir in her heart and quickly walked to the broken wall, examining the exceptionally beautiful white cat. What a rare breed. It's very clean, doesn't look like it has been wandering outside for long. It must have just gotten separated from its owner. Li Jinjin murmured to herself. She cautiously extended her hand, her fingertips gently probing the cat's chin, wanting to lift it down from the broken wall. Are you a deity's representative? At that moment, the white cat lying on the broken wall suddenly spoke a human language. Li Jinjin's pupils constricted and she instinctively took 2 quick steps back, reaching out to grasp the air. The golden longbow appeared in her hand, and her right fingertip condensed into an arrowhead shaped like a red heart, knocked on the longbow, her face filled with vigilance. Who are you? Chapter 797. Agent of the God of Love. Cupid. Hearing this answer by Li Pangpang was shocked and opened his mouth wide. Why would such a god need an agent? Has the birth rate in the Great Xia fallen so low that even the gods can't stand it anymore? Only Li Jinjin knows why Cupid chose her as an agent. Zhang Jingtian shrugged. Although she's a love god with no combat power, she is still a deity. If Cupid hadn't chosen Li Jinjin as an agent that day, we might not have even realized that the love god truly exists. After that, Cupid was also included in the list of deities observed by the Great Xia, numbered 019. What about Li Jinjin's divine ruin? Is it also related to love? Li Jinjin's divine ruin is classified as 030, pseudo-love. Currently she is only at the lantern level, able to conjure a bow and arrow of the love god. Anyone struck by that bow and arrow will develop feelings of love for the target she designates for a short time. The lowest rank of divine ruin. Lin Chia nodded. But even if it's a lower rank, it's still a divine ruin. Exactly, so her growth has always been a focus for headquarters. She's even on this year's new recruits training list for the Night Watchman. Although she's still young, this is a critical time, and the Great Xia needs this divine agent. I understand. Zhang Jingtian, along with the other members of Team 006, briefly greeted Lin Chia and the others. Although they were very happy about their arrival, they clearly had heavy hearts, their thoughts still lingering on the girl who had run away from home. Everyone, I'm really sorry. Zhang Jingtian said apologetically, it's the first time bringing you all to visit our team and something like this happens. Tonight's dinner might not be able to take place. We need to hurry and find Jinjin. There are still a few pool-level mysteries lurking in the capital city, and the other team members are still in pursuit. However, these mysteries have temporarily vanished, and I'm worried something might happen to Jinjin. And Qingyu adjusted her glasses. Doesn't Team 006 have a large-scale search method for such a big city? Jinjin has been with us for a long time and knows our tracking methods inside and out. It's impossible to catch her with regular surveillance. If the captain were here, we could quickly locate Jinjin. Unfortunately, he's still in a meeting and can't be reached by phone. Zhang Jingtian sighed. Lin Chia raised an eyebrow, turned to make eye contact with Qingyu and the others behind him and nodded slightly. We can help, Lin Chia said to Zhang Jingtian. Our team has some methods for finding people. This, Zhang Jingtian hesitated. Your guests after all, it might be too much trouble for you. It's not a bother. Bai Li Pangpang chuckled, pointing at the brand new tiles on the ground. Consider it a compensation for the tiles we broke 2 years ago. Zhang Jingtian was taken aback by this, then a smile appeared on his face. Then I'll trouble you. Zhang Jingtian found a photo from inside the room and handed it to Lin Chia. This was taken of Jinjin a couple of days ago. Lin Chia noted Li Jinjin's appearance and passed the photo to Qingyu, who glanced at it and nodded. By the way, I have another question, Jialon asked curiously. Did this child run away from home because she didn't want to attend the training camp? Well, Zhang Jingtian scratched his head. That shouldn't be the case. After all, she's been clamoring to attend the training camp for several years and officially become a night watchman, returning to the capital city. Then why did she run away from home? Zhang Jingtian and the other members of Team 006 exchanged glances and sighed helplessly. In an alley, the white cat with heterochromia watched the extremely vigilant Li Jinjin and gracefully leaped down from the broken wall. Before its body even landed, it quickly twisted and transformed into a boy of about 17 or 18, landing steadily on the ground. He stood up, calmly looking at the shocked Li Jinjin and spoke. Don't worry, I'm a human just like you. Li Jinjin's vigilance didn't fade. The bow and arrow in her hand remained pointed at the boy. My name is Fang Mo, the boy continued. I was watching when you dealt with those thugs just now. Your ability doesn't seem to have any offensive power. It just makes others fall in love with you. Li Jinjin frowned slightly. Fang Mo gazed into Li Jinjin's eyes, not avoiding the direction of the arrow, and took a slow step forward, the hem of his white shirt swaying gently in the breeze. Now that you're aiming this arrow at me, do you want me to fall in love with you like they did? Fang Mo stepped right in front of Li Jinjin, pressing his chest against the heart-shaped arrow and said lightly, You can give it a try. Li Jinjin froze in place. She wanted to shoot the arrow, but for some reason as soon as the boy spoke she instinctively resisted the urge to release it. What do you want? Li Jinjin asked, somewhat annoyed. I want to ask you about someone, he's also a divine agent. Who? Fang Mo looked into her eyes and pronounced each word clearly, Lin Chia. Lin Chia. Li Jinjin felt the name was somewhat familiar and thought for a moment. Is he the captain of the 5th Special Team? I've heard of him but haven't met him. The 5th Special Team. Fang Mo murmured the name. What is that? Hearing this question, Li Jinjin was taken aback. Aren't you a night watchman? Night watchman? What's that? Li Jinjin asked in confusion. If you don't even know what a night watchman is, how do you know about divine agents? Some special channels, Fang Mo replied vaguely. So, can you tell me about the night watchman? I can't. Li Jinjin didn't hesitate at all. That's a confidential unit. I can't just share it with others. The existence of the night watchman is a secret to the public. Li Jinjin has lived in the capital city's team for so long. Although she isn't an official night watchman, she is still quite familiar with these rules and regulations. She initially thought Fang Mo was also a night watchman, but it seems that's not the case. It's against the rules to disclose the existence of the night watchman to anyone outside of them. Fang Mo quietly looked into her eyes, a strange light flashing in his gaze. He opened his mouth and slowly asked, Are you really not planning to tell me? Chapter 798. The Order of Going to the Capital. The dim yellow sunlight gradually faded, and the lights of the bustling city began to illuminate one after another. Night fell and the city lights sparkled like stars adorning the earth, exuding a dreamy aura. At the top of a tall building in Shangjing City, a man clad in a black trench coat stood there, surrounded by countless bats that danced around him. After circling for a moment, they all flew up into the pitch-black night sky. The darkness in his eyes receded as he turned to the quiet man beside him, who wore a white research lab coat and said, I'll search the east side, you search the west side. Okay. And Qingyu adjusted his glasses. At the base of the building, countless rats surged into the dark streets, resembling a sea of shadows, and quickly disappeared into the city. With Lin Chia and Qingyu's extensive network, searching the entirety of Shangjing City would only take an hour or two. I'll take a stroll over in the East District. Maybe my mental energy can sense that girl's presence in advance, Lin Chia said, looking at Qingyu. Do you want to come along? Forget it, I can't keep up with your speed. Qingyu smiled helplessly, touching the black coffin on his back. It's just the right time for me to stabilize Jiang Er's magnetic field. Otherwise, if she encounters another large-scale explosion, she could easily get hurt. Lin Chia raised an eyebrow. Speaking of which, your relationship with Jiang Er seems to have improved a lot since you returned from Japan? Aren't we also getting along well? Not the same, it feels different. I always feel, you two are special to each other. Is that so? Yes. Like you and Jialan? Huh. What does that have to do with me and Jialan? And Qingyu blinked. Baby. Lin Chia walked over to Qingyu and patted his shoulder. Well, I'm off to search for that girl. If you find her later, remember to contact us. Sure. Lin Chia turned back, taking one last look at the person and the coffin standing in the light, his figure transforming into a shadow of the night, disappearing into the air. After Lin Chia left, a white figure quietly floated out from the black coffin. The blush on her cheeks had yet to fade. She glanced at Qingyu and spoke through the Bluetooth headset he had on. What were you just talking about? What we were talking about you could hear, right? Qingyu smiled. Jiang Er was taken aback, her blush deepening. She turned her head away. When did you modify my magnetic field? Right now. Qingyu reached out and touched the black coffin on his back. Let me find a quiet, unoccupied place. Shangjing City West District. On a small path in a park, two figures were ascending the steps in the shadowy thicket. Night watchman. After listening to Li Jinjin's description, Fang Yimou seemed to ponder. So, as long as you become a night watchman you have a chance to meet Lin Chia? That's indeed the case, but... Li Jinjin's words were cut short as her pupils slightly contracted. It seemed she realized something and suddenly turned to look at Fang Yimou. What did you do to me? How could I tell you these things? Don't be nervous, I just want to know more about him. I mean you no harm. Fang Yimou smiled slightly. You just said the new recruit training camp for night watchmen is about to start? What do you want? Don't look at me like that. Maybe in the future we could become allies. Fang Yimou said lightly. You want to join the night watchmen? Fang Yimou quietly stepped on the stone steps, not answering. After finding Lin Chia, what do you want to do with him? Fang Yimou remained silent. You've extracted so much information from me, and when it's my turn to ask you, you go mute? Li Jinjin said angrily. What's wrong with you? Shoo. Fang Yimou suddenly stopped, making a shushing gesture to Li Jinjin. Li Jinjin was taken aback, hesitated for a moment and then closed her mouth. Fang Yimou frowned slightly, turning to scan the surroundings. His ears twitched like a cat's, seemingly listening for something, his eyes filled with vigilance. Something's off. Fang Yimou lowered his voice. What's off? Li Jinjin began to speak but seemed to sense something and turned to look behind her. Unbeknownst to them, the stone steps they had come from were now shrouded in a thin veil, the hazy mist obscuring the thicket behind them, making it impossible to see the park scene. Is there a mystery? Li Jinjin squinted her eyes, reaching out to grasp the air, and a golden longbow fell into her hands. The fog isn't too dense. The coverage of the Forbidden Ruins is probably about half a mountain peak. This mystery shouldn't exceed the Chuan realm. Fang Yimou looked at her in surprise. How do you know? If you lived every day with a group of the top night watchmen in Daxia, these would be basic knowledge. Li Jinjin drew the bow, the heart-shaped arrow tip sweeping around as if searching for something. Fang Yimou pulled out a short knife from somewhere, gripping it in reverse, leaning against Li Jinjin and vigilantly watching the surroundings. Is the security in Shangjing City this poor? Can such things appear in the park? It's not that the security in Shangjing City is poor. On the contrary, the security forces here are too strong. Li Jinjin explained. With Team 006 around, any mystery that appears in Shangjing City, unless it's at the Klein realm, wouldn't dare to release its aura casually. They are like shadows lurking in this city. Once they make a move and attract Team 006's attention, they definitely won't survive for more than half a day. So generally speaking, these mysteries don't dare to harm people. At most they steal some stray pets. If there are casualties, Team 006 will inevitably intervene. However, they occasionally emit some aura to scare off humans passing through their territory, which over time has led to some urban legends. Fang Yimou asked in confusion, since the station team here is so strong, why not just eliminate them all? With so many mysteries lurking in this city, isn't it quite dangerous? Can't kill them all. Li Jinjin shook her head. Shangjing City is too large and the population is too dense. The rate at which mysteries appear is much faster than in other major cities in the country. If we really aim to wipe out all the mysteries in Shangjing City, Even if Team 006 didn't sleep for 24 hours, it might not be possible. By leveraging Team 006's deterrence, establishing such a survival order allows for an alternative, peace, at the lowest cost. Chapter 799. The Mysterious Fong Mo. Shangjing City, a certain hospital's morgue. Water droplets from melting ice drip steadily onto the floor from the smooth surface of the autopsy table, where a pale young girl lies quietly, her face as still as an ice sculpture. Beside her, Qingyu, dressed in a white lab coat, grips a scalpel and is diligently performing surgery. Behind him, a ghostly girl in a white dress sits on a pitch-black coffin, her eyes flickering as she gazes intently at Qingyu's profile. If a hospital staff member were to walk into the morgue at this moment, they would surely faint from the shock of the scene before them, as it is truly beyond comprehension. Of course, Qingyu had already made preparations. No one could enter this morgue. Suddenly, Qingyu seemed to sense something. He looked up in a certain direction. Shangjing City. I see. After pondering for a moment, a look of understanding appeared in his eyes. What's wrong? Jiang Er's voice came through the Bluetooth headset. Nothing. My rat tide has discovered quite a few dormant mysteries in Shangjing City. At first I was a bit puzzled, but now I've figured it out. Qingyu smiled slightly. Captain Xiaopingji's strategy is truly brilliant. Creating order in one's own territory like a king, using invisible deterrence to suppress tangible enemies. No wonder he can lead the team to guard Shangjing. Qingyu paused, continuing to murmur to himself. However, to achieve this, the king must possess considerable strength. If the king stationed in Shangjing cannot intimidate those rebellious mysteries with his own power, then Shangjing City will fall into chaos. But if that's the case... As Qingyu modified Jiang Er's body, his brows furrowed, as if he had encountered a difficult problem. Jiang Er couldn't understand what Qingyu was saying and simply blinked. Qingyu shook his head, deciding not to dwell on these matters for now. After all, the safety of Shangjing City was not something he needed to worry about. A few minutes later, Qingyu looked at the perfect corpse before him, nodded, put away the surgical tools and turned to Jiang Er, saying, "All right, your magnetic field has been reinforced. From now on, no matter how the external magnetic field is disturbed, it won't affect you." Jiang Er floated down from the black coffin, smiling and responding with a soft tone. Qingyu encased Jiang Er's corpse in ice and placed it back into the black coffin, slinging it over his shoulder. Just then, his rat tide suddenly transmitted a piece of information. Found her. Qingyu was taken aback, turning to look in a certain direction, his eyes narrowing slightly. Is it in that direction? In the park. Fong Mo and Li Jinjin stood back to back, vigilantly scanning their surroundings. So, we've intruded into some mystery territory? Fong Mo's eyes swept around. Is it still possible to leave now? Can you find your way back? Li Jinjin glanced at the area completely shrouded in mist and replied. You have to trust a cat's sense of smell. Fong Mo spoke calmly, sniffing the air and quickly locking onto a direction. Over there. Fong Mo's figure flickered as she gracefully darted through the mist, rushing toward that direction. Li Jinjin hesitated for a moment, gritted her teeth and followed suit. The two quickly sprinted along the mist-covered path, with Fong Mo in the lead and Li Jinjin behind. After about 2 minutes, Fong Mo gradually came to a halt. Why aren't you running anymore? Li Jinjin nearly collided with Fong Mo's back and frowned as she asked. I can't run anymore. Fong Mo's gaze was fixed on the impenetrable mist ahead, her voice tinged with helplessness. Li Jinjin was about to say something when out of the corner of her eye, she spotted a massive figure resembling a fake mountain slowly approaching through the mist. It was a blue three-headed giant, its belly bulging like a festering sore, with one muscular arm wielding a wolf-toothed club larger than Li Jinjin and the other holding a battered broadsword. With each step it took, the ground trembled slightly, emanating an aura of peak pool realm. How can this be? Li Jinjin exclaimed in confusion as she saw the figure approaching them. A mystery of this level shouldn't dare to attack humans. Is it not afraid of death? Fong Mo stood quietly in front of Li Jinjin, watching the enormous figure draw closer, slowly raising the short knife she held in reverse grip. It's coming for me, she sighed. Coming for you? What are you talking about? Nothing. I'll hold it off for a bit. You keep running straight down this path and you'll get out soon. Li Jinjin frowned at Fang Mo, unsure of what she was thinking. Crack. Before them, the three-headed blue giant, clutching the wolf-toothed club and broadsword, fixed its gaze on Fang Mo as if it had discovered a rare treasure, roaring excitedly before launching itself like a cannonball. Fang Mo reversed her grip on the short knife, her eyes narrowing as she charged toward the blue giant. Her speed was astonishing, and each step she took was silent, like an agile and graceful white cat, reaching the giant's feet in an instant. The massive wolf-toothed club slammed into the ground, sending shards of stone flying, but Fang Mo nimbly leaped aside. The short knife in her hand sliced through the mist in a crescent arc, striking the blue giant's wrist and leaving a long, narrow gash. The blue giant howled in pain, and its other hand swung the broadsword down rapidly. Fang Mo twisted her body, positioning the short knife in front of her to block the blow. However, the strength of this mystery was terrifyingly overwhelming. Fang Mo felt her arms go numb, and the short knife nearly slipped from her grasp as she was sent flying by the force of the strike, drifting in midair. One of the giant's heads opened its mouth, flames swirling in its throat, and the next moment a fireball shot out. In a split second, a golden feathered arrow embedded with a heart-shaped arrowhead sliced through the air, smashing the fireball and shooting directly toward the blue giant's body. The arrow embedded itself in the giant's bulging belly. The blue giant's body suddenly trembled, and the central head widened its eyes, staring intently at Fang Mo, who it had just sent flying, with a look of intense affection. It took a step forward, wanting to embrace that figure, but the other two heads remained alert, struggling fiercely for control of the body. Thus, the ferocious blue giant began to flail about in place. In the distance, a figure carrying a black coffin silently appeared in the park's thicket. Is that Li Jinjin? And Qingyu's gaze locked onto the girl with the golden bow and arrow. After confirming she was the one in the photo, he shifted his gaze away. Moments later, he looked at Fang Mo beside him. A hint of gray appeared in Qingyu's eyes, and then his brows furrowed tightly. What is that? Chapter 800. We are good people. Fang Mo's arm, which was gripping the short knife, trembled slightly. Just as he was about to charge at the blue fat man again, he suddenly seemed to notice something and turned to look at a patch of jungle beside him. Did he discover us? Jiang Er's surprised voice came through the Bluetooth headset. That shouldn't be possible. At most he's just at the pool level. How could he sense our presence? It's his sense of smell, and Qingyu analyzed while observing Fang Mo. His sense of smell is very acute, already beyond human capability. No, it should be said that he is no longer human himself. While the two were whispering, Fang Mo stared at the jungle, feeling an inexplicable fear creeping in. This fear was puzzling. His sense of smell had already informed him that there was a person and a corpse in that jungle. He had encountered powerful humans before, but in that moment his instincts told him that this human must not be provoked. After a moment, it seemed he had made a decision, shifting his gaze away from the two and charging once more at the blue fat man. As he dashed past Li Jinjin, he whispered softly, "Thank you, I have to go now. Maybe we'll meet again soon." The words mingled with the wind, sounding somewhat unclear. Li Jinjin was taken aback, and before she could react, Fang Mo had nimbly dashed under the blue fat man, his short knife swiftly slashing towards the opponent's legs. The blue fat man roared and swung his wolf fang club upward, sending Fang Mo along with his knife flying into the air. Fang Mo's figure wavered in midair, transforming into a white cat with different colored eyes, floating hundreds of meters away before disappearing into the distant jungle. He ran away? And Qingyu didn't expect the boy to flee so decisively, like a mouse seeing a cat. Am I really that terrifying? And Qingyu sighed, ultimately deciding not to pursue the mysterious boy. After all, his target was only Li Jinjin. He carried the black coffin and stepped forward, vanishing from sight. Seeing Fang Mo leave inexplicably, Li Jinjin stood frozen for a moment before accepting this reality, anger flashing in her eyes. You made me stay when I could have run, and now you just leave me behind. What a scumbag. The blue fat man, wielding a wooden knife, glared at Li Jinjin with both of his heads. After Fang Mo left, the head that had been clouded by affection regained its senses, its eyes turning crimson as it roared in anger and charged at her. Li Jinjin gripped her golden bow and arrow, frowning at the rampaging blue fat man, her expression extremely serious. Before she could shoot her feathered arrow, the temperature around her suddenly dropped. A chill swept through the air, crashing into the charging blue fat man and instantly freezing him into an ice sculpture. Li Jinjin stood frozen in place. A man carrying a black coffin walked out from the woods at a leisurely pace, the moonlight reflecting off his glasses. He casually pointed at the ice sculpture, which began to shatter piece by piece, leaving only the three heads separately encased in ice, rolling to the man's feet. An invisible thread strung the three frozen heads together, floating automatically onto the black coffin, resembling a string of ornaments swaying in the dimly lit forest path. Instant kill. Under the moonlight, the man with the black coffin hanging three frozen grotesque heads, calmly turned to look at her. Li Jinjin instinctively took a few steps back, the tip of her arrow immediately aimed at Qingyu, her eyes filled with wariness. This man looks nothing like a good person. At that moment, Li Jinjin suddenly felt that compared to this eerie man, the previously grotesque blue fat man seemed unexpectedly simple and endearing. Little sister, don't be afraid, we are the good guys. Behind Li Jinjin, a graceful figure in a white dress floated out, her voice distorted as it echoed through the silent path via the Bluetooth speaker at Qinyu's waist. Li Jinjin's body trembled. She stiffly turned her head to look at the ghost floating behind her, her mouth agape in shock. What? Jinjin has been found. In the 006 team's base, Zhang Jingtian's face lit up with joy upon receiving the call. How is she? Is she okay? Huh. Scared faint. Zhang Jingtian was taken aback. Oh, so that's how it is. As long as she's safe, that's good. After a moment, Zhang Jingtian hung up the phone with a strange expression. How's Jinjin? A member of the 006 team asked. She's fine. The Nightfall team found her just a bit scared and fainted. They'll bring her back soon. Scared. The team member was taken aback. Jinjin has always been very brave. How could she be scared? I don't know the details, but as long as she's safe, that's what matters. Zhang Jingtian turned and walked toward the kitchen. Let's go cook first. When the Nightfall team arrives, we need to thank them properly. Okay. At the Asylum of the Gods. Director, what are you doing here? Shoo. By the large tree in the courtyard, Lin Chia raised a hand, signaling the puzzled raccoon to be quiet. The little raccoon immediately covered its mouth with its paw, its black gemstone-like eyes blinking as it lowered its voice and asked, Director, why are you hiding here? Lin Chia, wearing a white coat, didn't answer. Instead, he quietly peeked out from behind the tree to look at the second floor of the opposite ward. On the second floor, a monk draped in a robe was casually sitting on the railing, holding a jar of fruit wine and pouring it into his mouth. Drops of fruit wine slid from his lips, trickling down his messy fur and dripping onto his robe. After a while, he suddenly lifted his head, placing the now empty jar aside, wiping his mouth and letting out a long belch. The little raccoon glanced in Sun Wukong's direction, pondering for a long time before realizing, Director, do you want to drink too? There's some left in the kitchen from what I stole last night. Should I go get it for you? Drink what? Lin Chia helplessly tapped its head. Go cook your food, don't pry into matters outside. Oh. The little raccoon rubbed its head and obediently walked toward the kitchen. Lin Chia turned back to look at the second-floor corridor again. After finishing his drink, Sun Wukong didn't immediately return to the ward but sat alone on the railing, staring blankly into the distance. The robe soaked in wine wrapped around his body, emitting a faint glow in the dim sunlight. Sun Wukong's treatment progress, 23%. Chapter 801, The Fifth Patient. Lin Chia looked at the progress bar and a sudden inexplicable sense of achievement rose in his heart. Finally, it has broken through 20%. Under his persistent efforts to chat and persuade, Sun Wukong, who had initially remained as immovable as a rock and indifferent to others, had finally progressed from occasionally responding to simple conversations, and then using fruit wine as bait, he lured him out of the hospital room. He was gradually stepping out of that cage. Although there was still some distance to the next milestone of 50%, as long as he was willing to step out and communicate, Lin Chia was confident he could resolve its inner turmoil in a short time. The most difficult step had already been taken. Now it depended on Lin Chia's ability to understand Sun Wukong's psychology. Looking at the figure draped in a cassock sitting on the railing, Lin Chia hesitated for a moment but ultimately chose not to approach him for a conversation. He could sense that deep sadness and nostalgia were reflected in Sun Wukong's eyes. It was better not to disturb him while he was reminiscing about the past. After all, he could already step out of the hospital room, and there would be plenty of opportunities in the future. Lin Chia turned and left the large tree. He walked up to the second floor of the hospital from the other side of the corridor and finally stopped at the door of the fifth patient room. Upon entering Wuliang, Lin Chia gained the qualification to open the fifth door, behind which was the fifth deity imprisoned in this psychiatric hospital for gods. Lin Chia looked up at the top of this patient room, where a plaque symbolizing divine identity was engraved with a golden crown full of cracks. Lin Chia stared at the plaque, lost in thought. The crown symbolizes supreme status and absolute kingship. However, in the mythologies of various nations, there are very few deities associated with kingship. Moreover, crowns are generally used as symbols of identity by earthly emperors. For deities, symbols of supreme status are usually scepters or thrones, making crowns quite rare. Even if it is a crown, why is it shattered? The Greek goddess of night, Nyx, the magical god Merlin from English mythology, the god of music and poetry Bragi from Norse mythology, the great sage equal to heaven, Sun Wukong from the great Xia. If the 7 patients in this hospital, as Lin Chia suspected, are indeed deities from different nations, then the mythological systems available for the last 3 patient rooms are actually quite limited. Yet even so, Lin Chia still had no clue about the deity in this 5th patient room. Taking a deep breath, Lin Chia reached for the doorknob of the patient room, and after a moment he pushed it open with force. Creak. With no resistance, the door to the 5th patient room slowly opened as Lin Chia pushed it. Not far away, Sun Wukong, who was staring blankly into the distance at the railing, seemed to sense something and turned his head in this direction, his brows slightly furrowing. As the door opened, sunlight poured into the room, illuminating the empty space in the center where a man draped in a gray robe sat on a folding chair, motionless like a statue. The moment a beam of sunlight fell on him, his deep purple eyes slowly opened, and at the same time, an indescribable aura emanated from him. The dim yellow sunlight cast his shadow against the white wall behind him, the gray robe draped over him like a king seated on a throne at the world's end. A proud and lonely king. At the moment he opened his eyes, Lin Chia was stunned. Instinctively, an inexplicable impulse surged in his mind, wanting to kneel on the ground and offer his freedom and life to this ancient king who should not exist in the world. But the moment this thought appeared, it was suppressed by Lin Chia. The source of night within him automatically operated, darkening his aura, and a faint imperial aura emanated from his body, diluting the man's overwhelming presence. The man sitting in the folding chair seemed somewhat surprised to see Lin Chia break free from his aura. At the same time, within the psychiatric hospital for gods, Merlin and Bragi, who were leisurely playing chess, simultaneously sensed something and turned to look at the second floor of the patient room. That is, Bragi's brow furrowed slightly. It seems that the esteemed director is about to bring us a new neighbor, Merlin said, gazing through the window on the first floor at the vaguely appearing figure of the man, his eyes flashing with a few glimmers, as if he had glimpsed something through the flow of fateful stars. Strange. Bragi, sensing this aura, asked in confusion, "This seems to be just a demigod?" To be precise, he is 2/3 god and 1/3 human. He possesses the power and wisdom of a deity but lacks the lifespan of one. He is a god who shares the same lifespan as mortals. Merlin sighed softly. This new neighbor is also a tragic figure. Lin Chia steadied his mind and looked up at the panel floating behind the man. Patient room number 5. Patient, Gilgamesh. Task: help Gilgamesh treat his mental illness. When the treatment progress reaches the specified values, 1%, 50%, 100%, a portion of Gilgamesh's abilities can be randomly drawn. Current treatment progress: 0%. Gilgamesh? Upon seeing this name, Lin Chia quickly recalled information about this deity. Gilgamesh is a deity from Sumerian mythology. In the modern world where the mist has descended, there is very little information about this mythological system, and what Lin Chia knows is quite limited. He only remembers that Gilgamesh is a half-human, half-god being and the fifth king of Uruk, known as a cruel and evil tyrant. Kneel. Just as Lin Chia was pondering, the man in the gray robe sitting in the folding chair spoke. Lin Chia was taken aback. Gilgamesh's purple eyes stared at Lin Chia, and with an expressionless face he spoke again, I command you to kneel. Lin Chia. Is this person sick? Right, he really is sick. Why should I kneel? Lin Chia asked calmly. Lin Chia would not stoop to Gilgamesh's level. After all, he was a professional psychiatrist. It was most important for him to deduce Gilgamesh's condition through this dialogue rather than argue with a patient. All my subjects should kneel before me when they see me. Gilgamesh frowned and said, if you do not kneel, you will die. As soon as he finished speaking, without waiting for Lin Chia to say anything further, Gilgamesh raised his finger and lightly pointed at Lin Chia. In the next moment, a blinding purple light erupted from the patient room, shooting upward at an angle, piercing the sky of the psychiatric hospital for gods. Chapter 802, Gilgamesh. The purple light in the sky slowly faded, and the terrifying waves of destruction subsided. Sun Wukong sat on the railing holding a wine jar, his eyes lightly scanning the dust-filled but unharmed hospital room, then calmly turning his head to continue staring blankly into the distance. The dust settled. Lin Chia, dressed in a white coat, stood at the door, not a single scratch on him. With his hands in his pockets, he looked at Gilgamesh in front of him, a look of helplessness appearing on his face. Did he just start a fight over a disagreement? Another difficult opponent. Seeing that Lin Chia had withstood such an attack and remained unscathed, Gilgamesh's brows furrowed slightly. He stared at Lin Chia for a moment as if sensing something. So it turns out the laws here are protecting you? How fortunate. Gilgamesh slowly stood up from the folding chair, his indifferent gaze sweeping over Lin Chia as he walked toward the door of the hospital room, lightly shaking his gray robe, as if it were not an ordinary robe but a royal garment symbolizing supreme authority. He walked straight to the door of the hospital room and stopped. Step aside, Gilgamesh said flatly. Lin Chia stood at the door, showing no intention of yielding. You can't go out yet. You opened the door for this king and now you won't let him out? Gilgamesh's deep purple eyes narrowed slightly. Are you toying with this king? It's too dangerous for you to go out. You have the laws of this place protecting you. This king cannot harm you. What are you afraid of? You are mistaken, Lin Chia sighed. What I meant is not that I will be in danger, but that you will be in danger. Gilgamesh stared into Lin Chia's eyes, a hint of mockery appearing on his face. This king will be in danger? Peasant, do you know who this king is? A madman. Gilgamesh spoke coldly. If it weren't for the laws here, you would have been executed by this king 1,000 times over. As his words fell, Lin Chia felt a blur before his eyes, and Gilgamesh's body suddenly vanished from in front of him. When he turned around, he found Gilgamesh already standing in the corridor outside the hospital room. The ancient king, draped in a gray robe, walked to the edge of the railing on the second floor. The dim yellow sunset cast a golden edge on his gray robe. In that moment, it seemed as if he had truly returned to another time, wearing the supreme royal robe, looking down upon his city-state. Under the sunset, his deep purple eyes appeared somewhat vacant, an endless sense of desolation and confusion surging forth. Clang! A loud noise interrupted his memories. Gilgamesh frowned, anger flashing across his face. He turned to see a monkey in a cassock at the door of the adjacent hospital room, casually throwing an empty wine jar to the ground as he stepped down from the railing. Sun Wukong seemed to sense Gilgamesh's gaze, slightly tilting his head to glance at him before continuing to walk toward his hospital room as if no one were around. Stop. Gilgamesh raised his head arrogantly. Why don't you kneel upon seeing this king? Sun Wukong had one foot in the hospital room but suddenly paused. He slowly withdrew the foot that was about to enter, turned his head and squinted at the gray-robed Gilgamesh. You want who to kneel? Sun Wukong's chilling voice echoed in the air. Lin Chia sighed from the side. As expected. You, Gilgamesh repeated. Sun Wukong quietly stared at him, his expression unchanged, but the cassock draped over him began to flutter uncontrollably. Seeing this scene, Lin Chia pondered. Combining it with the previous experience in room 4, Lin Chia speculated that the cassock on Sun Wukong was likely a tool used by the Buddhas to suppress his true self. This cassock sealed his demonic nature while also restraining his emotional fluctuations. And whenever the cassock reacted, it indicated that Sun Wukong's emotions were beginning to stir. He was angry. "What are you? You think you can make me kneel?" Sun Wukong spoke with a chilling intent. "I won't kneel to anyone except my master." "What are you?" Gilgamesh replied calmly. "How ridiculous. Since when does a monkey used for entertainment deserve to share a floor with this king?" Boom. On the second-floor corridor of the hospital, Sun Wukong, draped in a golden cassock, suddenly vanished from his spot, and a piercing sonic boom echoed throughout the hospital. At the same time, a violent and powerful divine force surged forth like a tide. A fist wrapped in golden light shattered the void, roaring toward Gilgamesh's chest. Gilgamesh's pupils constricted. Boom. A burst of purple energy erupted in front of Gilgamesh, but it still failed to stop the unstoppable fist, which struck directly at Gilgamesh's chest, sending him crashing out of the hospital's second floor like a cannonball, landing in the courtyard below. This brief yet fierce clash of divine forces startled all the nurses in the hospital. Li Yifei shouted hoarsely from the side, directing the other nurses to evacuate quickly, clearing the courtyard. Merlin and Bragi emerged from the study, standing at the edge of the courtyard, watching the figure that had been smashed into the ground. Two hotheads meeting. "This hospital won't be peaceful now," Merlin sighed helplessly. He extended his hand and set up several layers of magical arrays around the courtyard to prevent the impending battle from harming the innocent nurses. Bragi scratched his head, thought for a moment, and directly pulled out his harp from the room, sitting down beside the courtyard. "What are you doing?" Merlin asked in confusion. "Since I'm just sitting here, I might as well provide some battle background music for them," Bragi said with a look of excitement, plucking the strings of his harp, and a passionate, fast-paced melody echoed above the hospital. In the courtyard, dust rolled and churned from the ground, and a figure slowly stood up from the deep pit in the grass. Those furious purple eyes opened, and an unmatched kingly aura erupted from him, the gray robe billowing in the wake of his presence. Even with Merlin's magical arrays in place, the kingly aura radiating from him nearly forced the other nurses to their knees. Opposite him, a golden-eyed ancient ape in a cassock gracefully descended from the second floor, its blazing golden eyes burning like the sun, the violent divine force rampaging through the air, matching the kingly aura. Lin Chia stood on the second-floor corridor, looking down at the terrifying fluctuations of the two auras in the courtyard. After a moment of thought, he chose not to intervene. On one hand, he wanted to leverage Sun Wukong's fierce combat power to suppress Gilgamesh's momentum. On the other hand, he was genuinely curious. Who was stronger, the great sage Sun Wukong or the ancient Babylonian tyrant Gilgamesh? Chapter 803. Head-to-head confrontation. The passionate battle music resonated from the harp, and as the last note fell, two figures standing in the courtyard moved simultaneously. A golden and a purple shadow collided in the center of the courtyard in an instant, two completely different divine powers wreaking havoc in every corner of the magic circle. Under the terrifying pressure of their clash, Merlin, who had been calmly sipping tea from a thermos, changed his expression slightly, silently set down his cup, and layered several more magic circles around the courtyard. Soil, grass, dust, everything in the courtyard shattered and vanished under the assault of the two figures. Amidst the golden and purple light, their confrontation produced countless afterimages, dazzling to behold. Even Lin Chia could not see their movements clearly. Is this what a battle between gods looks like? Lin Chia helplessly closed his eyes, giving up on trying to capture their battle with his eyes, instead relying on the flow of energy to assess the situation in the arena. Overall, Sun Wukong's violent divine power and Gilgamesh's kingly dominance were still evenly matched, but Lin Chia could clearly feel that whenever Sun Wukong, in a fit of rage, attempted to summon more divine power, a faint Buddhist light would emerge, suppressing his aura. He was being restrained by the Kasaya on him. "Youth is truly wonderful," Merlin said, sitting at the edge of the courtyard, taking another sip from his thermos, unable to help but sigh, so full of vitality. "Lord Merlin, you're not old either," Bragi thought for a moment and added, "just your hair is falling out a bit fast." Merlin's expression was still quite happy upon hearing the first half of the sentence, but his face darkened at the latter half. He reached up and secretly touched the few strands of hair left on his head, letting out a long sigh. My time is also running out, he murmured in a voice only he could hear. In the courtyard, the two auras continued to clash for over 5 minutes, showing no signs of stopping. Gilgamesh's eyes were profoundly purple as he sidestepped Sun Wukong's fierce punch. The howling wind from the punch struck the magic circle behind him, causing the entire courtyard to vibrate with a buzzing sound. He stomped his right foot on the ground, and the earth beneath him shattered inch by inch. The pure force of destruction sent Sun Wukong's Kasaya swirling, yet his figure did not retreat at all. Gilgamesh gazed into those brilliant golden eyes, his fury intensifying. He reached out and grasped the air, and a long sword shimmering with golden light appeared in his hand. Seeing this, Sun Wukong also reached into his ear, and the next moment, a Rui Jingu Bang fell into his hand. The two held their respective weapons, and the divine power surged at an astonishing speed. Lin Chia looked down at the battlefield, still hesitating whether to call a halt to their fight when a voice came from afar. "Director, they should stop now," Merlin's voice echoed. "I can sense that the self-awareness of this hospital is becoming somewhat dissatisfied. If they continue to fight like this, something unpleasant might happen." Lin Chia turned his head to look at the edge of the courtyard on the first floor, where Merlin, wearing a deep blue wide-brimmed hat, smiled at him. Lin Chia nodded slightly. He leaped directly from the second-floor railing, passed through Merlin's magic circle, and landed squarely in the center of the courtyard, reaching out to grasp the void. The divine power wreaking havoc in every corner of the courtyard vanished simultaneously, as if an invisible hand had snuffed out the flames, and the tense air instantly calmed down. Dressed in a white coat, Lin Chia stood between Sun Wukong and Gilgamesh. Taking a step forward, the ravaged courtyard seemed to come back to life, rapidly self-repairing. Soil piled up, grass reformed, trees regenerated. In just a few seconds, the entire courtyard returned to its original appearance. Even though Lin Chia was now standing between the two, neither Sun Wukong nor Gilgamesh showed any intention of stopping. They stared fiercely at each other, divine power swirling around them, as if they were about to clash again at any moment. "Enough," Lin Chia said, frowning. "This is a hospital after all. If you really want to fight, wait until you leave here. You can fight until the heavens collapse and the earth shatters, and it won't concern me." Lin Chia turned to Sun Wukong. "Monkey King, just do me a favor." Sun Wukong squinted at Gilgamesh, hesitated for a moment, and then retracted his killing intent. "Fine." His Kasaya returned to calm, and he turned to walk toward his hospital room. "Kid, for the sake of that fruit wine, I'll give you a face. If he picks a fight again, I'll kill him." A cold glint flashed in Gilgamesh's eyes as he opened his mouth, silently saying something. Lin Chia was taken aback. Then, as if he realized something, Lin Chia turned to look at the edge of the courtyard. He saw that at some point Merlin had acquired a staff, the tip of which was pointed at Gilgamesh, and a small magic circle was operating in front of him. Silencing spell. Lin Chia finally breathed a sigh of relief. He had been worried that with Gilgamesh's temperament he would never back down or admit defeat, fearing that the two would erupt into another battle. But now, with Merlin's silencing spell, Gilgamesh's words were effectively muted, which naturally would not provoke Sun Wukong. A potential catastrophe was averted under this small silencing spell. Lin Chia turned around and gave Merlin a thumbs up. "Experience is still the best teacher. Praise be to the god of magic." Shangjing City. "Uncle Shao, Uncle Yuan, don't go. Why must you leave? If you go, the family will be broken. I don't want to stay without everyone in Team 006. Where are you going? I want to go with you." A stretched Lincoln sped down the dimly lit road. On the black leather sofa, Li Jinjin curled up, murmuring in her sleep, tears streaming down her cheeks, soaking the sofa beneath her. The members of the Nightfall team sat quietly to one side, exchanging glances and letting out helpless sighs. "This little girl doesn't seem as strong as she looks," Bai Li Pang Pang said in a low voice. "What do you know? A girl is still a girl. Even if she appears strong on the outside, deep down she is fragile." Jialan gently stroked Li Jinjin's head and shot a glare at Bai Li Pang Pang. "Moreover, she has been living with Team 006 for 7 or 8 years. For her, Team 006 has become her home. Once the war stronghold is fully completed, Team 006 as the stationed force in Shangjing City will inevitably have to split off a large number of members to guard the war stronghold. For this child, the personnel changes in Team 006 mean the complete disintegration of her family. She is still too young to accept this reality. Running away from home is quite normal. But some things cannot be changed by personal will. Lin Chia's consciousness returned from the divine mental hospital and he opened his eyes. No matter how reluctant or sad she is, she cannot keep those family members of Team 006. They are destined to go their separate ways, risking their lives to guard those crucial strongholds. She cannot change the overall situation. All she can do is change herself. Lin Chia looked at the still sleeping girl, her face streaked with tears, and slowly spoke. This is growth. Chapter 804. The Divine Agent of the Great Xia. Not long after, the stretched Lincoln arrived at the entrance of the courtyard and came to a slow stop. Lin Chia and the others, holding the still sleeping Li Jinjin, walked into the courtyard. At this moment, the members of Team 006 had already set everything up. In the central open area of the courtyard, a wide long table was laid out, and Zhang Jingtian and others were busy serving dishes. Jinjin. Zhang Jingtian's expression brightened when he saw Lin Chia carrying Li Jinjin as they entered the courtyard. He quickly walked over. Lin Chia gently handed Li Jinjin to Zhang Jingtian and said, "Sorry, she got a bit scared and is still dreaming. We were worried she wouldn't recognize us and would be frightened upon waking, so we didn't wake her." "Thank you." Zhang Jingtian held Li Jinjin, noticing the faint traces of tears on her face. A gentle smile appeared on the tough man's face. The news about personnel changes in our team was too much of a blow for her. This little girl has been crying and throwing tantrums. It's the first time I've seen her sleep so peacefully in the past few days. "So, you were late picking us up today because of her?" Lin Chia suddenly realized. Zhang Jingtian smiled a bit sheepishly. At that time Jinjin was crying too hard at home. I couldn't bear to leave her, but I didn't expect that as soon as I stepped out, she would run away from home in a fit of anger. Let's not talk about that. Come on, the dishes are ready. Please take your seats. By the way, where are Instructor Yuan and Captain Xiao? Haven't they returned yet? Captain Xiao is back and is in the study reviewing documents. Instructor Yuan should be here shortly. Zhang Jingtian seemed to remember something. Oh, Captain Xiao said that after you arrived he would like to invite you to the office for a cup of tea. Lin Chia paused for a moment and nodded slightly. Okay. Knock knock knock. Come in. Lin Chia pushed the door open and walked in. In the spacious office he saw Xiao Pinga sitting behind the desk, dozing off over a pile of documents. When he noticed Lin Chia had arrived, Xiao Pinga's sleepy eyes brightened a bit. After stretching he smiled at Lin Chia. Sorry, I had a long meeting today and I'm a bit tired. Thank you for your hard work, Captain Xiao. Lin Chia smiled politely. No need to be so formal. Xiao Pinga stood up and moved a comfortable chair for Lin Chia, smiling as he said, You're a junior brought in by old Chen. We're all family here. You can call me Xiao Gu or Xiao Shi, whatever you like. No need to be reserved. Lin Chia was taken aback for a moment, then realized that the old Chen Xiao Pinga mentioned was Chen Mai. Lin Chia couldn't help but smile wryly. The personality of this white Wuchang was quite different from the silent black Wuchang, Chen Mai. I know you're here to ask about old Chen's past, right? Xiao Pinga asked. I am indeed a bit curious. Lin Chia couldn't help but reply. Back when we were in Songnan, Captain Chen Mai had so many secrets. Black and white Wuchang, the wrath of Shiva. Even now, I still don't truly understand him. Old Chen. Xiao Pinga chuckled, pointing at Lin Chia. Actually, we were in a similar situation back then. Similar. We are all agents of the gods. Lin Chia stood frozen in place. Agents of the gods? That's right. Xiao Pinga stood up from his seat and walked slowly to the window, gazing out at the night sky as he began to speak. However, the gods we represented were the gods of Daxia. The gods of Daxia also have agents? This was the first time Lin Chia had heard of agents of the Daxia gods, and he couldn't help but ask in confusion. Yes, but the agents of the Daxia gods are different from those of other gods, at least they used to be, Xiao Pinga explained. You should know that over 100 years ago, in order to block the invasion of the mist, the Daxia god sacrificed itself to become an invisible wall, guarding the borders of Daxia, right? I know. After that, the Daxia gods all entered reincarnation and only slowly revived after 100 years. Lin Chia seemed to think of something. But if that's the case, then during that 100 years there were no gods in Daxia. How could there be agents of the Daxia gods? That's what I meant when I said that the agents of the Daxia gods are different from other agents. Other gods choose agents under certain transactional conditions, dividing a part of their divine ruins to grant to the corresponding agents. Essentially, the agents inherit a fragment of the laws left by the gods. However, the Daxia gods, being in reincarnation themselves, even if a few awaken early, their strength is very weak and they cannot divide the laws to give to agents like other gods. Therefore, the Daxia gods choose to use some medium closely related to themselves to bestow part of their power to the agents. Through a medium? There are many forms of mediums, such as a divine artifact or divine beast of their own, or special objects that symbolize their identity and contain the power of faith. A sword, a mirror, a jade rui, a whisk, or a spirit beast can all serve as mediums. However, since the Daxia gods are in reincarnation and their strength is still at a low point, not yet reaching the divine realm, the forbidden ruins granted to the agents in this way do not originate from the laws. Therefore, in terms of hierarchy, they can only be considered forbidden ruins, not divine ruins. Only when the Daxia god who granted the forbidden ruins regains their peak strength and returns to the divine realm will these forbidden ruins automatically break that layer of shackles and return to the level of divine ruins. Until then, we can only be considered true agents of the gods. Chinmay and I are called Black and White Wuchang, for a reason, because the Daxia god who chose us as agents back then was the one sleeping in the Yama hall, King Yama. And the medium used by King Yama to grant us power was that Yama hall. Yama hall. Hearing these words, Lin Chia's mind instantly recalled the grand hall that stood behind Chinmay when he opened the forbidden ruins during the battle against Han Xiaoyun and Songnan a few years ago. The plaque also bore the 3 characters Yama Hall. Originally, Lin Chia thought that was just a phantom of the Yama Hall formed by the forbidden ruins. Now it seemed that what appeared behind Chinmay at that time was the real Yama Hall. Because the Yama Hall was the medium that carried the forbidden ruins of the Black Wuchang. When the Daxia god returns to the divine realm, will the agent's forbidden ruins automatically be upgraded to divine ruins? At this point, Lin Chia suddenly thought of a very important question. By the way, it has been over 2 years since the Daxia gods repaired the source of the heavenly court. Does this mean the Daxia gods have fully returned? Where are they?